Everybody is sharing this clip and saying, watch this. Look at his emotional state. Look how he's pouring his heart out in this genuine way. And look at the cold, evil, villainous Ritchie Torres just sitting there. First of all, welcome back to
Ami's house.
All right, assembling a duo episode in between our normal scheduled releases to react to what's going on the interwebs. Michael, there's been an episode circulating from one of our former guests who appeared on a different podcast, Ritchie Torres on the Adam Friedland Show, making its rounds all over Twitter and the internet. Give me some of your thoughts. Let's give some background here.
Yeah, well, I saw it pop up on my feed, and my gut reaction was like, I have to watch this, and I cannot bring myself to watch this. So much so, I literally couldn't watch the episode. I had to listen to it. I found it on Spotify and listened to it.
Why couldn't you watch it?
But it bugs me so much. It bugs me so very much. It bugs me how Ritchie Torres looked like a villain for some reason. In like this dark suit. It was like dark lighting. And the posture of everything Adam Friedland represents and everything Ritchie Torres represents, and that's what we're gonna talk about today.
Okay,
but I did listen and do it. But just quickly, like, let's go through who Adam Friedland is. He's 38 years old. Grew up Jewish in DC, I think, in Vegas partly, and partly South Africa. He's like, I think his grandparents came out of Lithuania, made their way to South Africa, and then his family made his way to America. I don't know how religious he grew up, but it seems like, a Holocaust-y family. And then he actually spent a year in Israel working for MADA. So he lived there for a year, so same as me and you. And then he was majoring in Middle Eastern Studies in GW. So at GW majored in Middle Eastern Studies, which was surprising because he's not ignorant. He shouldn't be ignorant about it. But he seems to have come to very different conclusions. So it is interesting. And then his show is, we'll watch a clip of him and Richie, but you and me we're doing some research. His show is like somewhere between Two Ferns and Eric Andre and like the Daily Show, where like he's very funny. He trolls you, but he can switch back into I'm a real person and I have real thoughts and feelings anytime he pleases, which really puts his guests on like their back feet.
Exactly. I think it sounds from the pattern of watching his show is that the guests know they're sitting down with a comedian who's got this kind of character, likes to kibitz and likes to joke around. And like you said, you're not really sure when he was responding until he responds if it's coming from a trollish character place or if it's coming from a sincere place. And so that jumping between the two can get complicated. And it's very evident that that's something being very like hard to grapple with in the episode with him and Richie. I think Richie was certainly feeling that, as we'll see.
Yeah, and he's like Eric Andre, but Eric Andre, you don't necessarily know what his politics are. Like, he has like real serious political beliefs and like a real stance on it. So like when he's trolling you, it's not quite the same as like Zach Galifianakis. But like, let's watch this clip and get into the whole thing.
Disagreements with the Israeli government, you should voice your criticism of the Israeli government, but there is no justification for intimidation or harassment against American Jews.
I'm telling you as a Jew right now that we are receiving a lot more hate because of what the people with the flag that has a Jewish star on are doing to other people right now. I'm telling you as a Jewish person how painful it is for us to say, and it hurts my stomach to say this. So you're going to say, I disagree, that this is a genocide. And that hurts to say that a Jew could do that. It hurts because we grew up with learning about what hatred is. We grew up learning about this. And the same year the state of Israel was established in 1948, the world saw the Holocaust and they established standards for what a genocide is. It was the same year. And the world said that this shouldn't be a thing that happens. And I just wonder, like it doesn't make sense to me, like what, like don't know. It doesn't track to me why there's this fixation with kids at a school and two examples of people at a restaurant that there was banging.
Two examples. I mean, there are surveys on it.
Give me the
read the ADL surveys on it. Because
it's hard for me to talk about this in public.
Everybody is sharing this clip and saying, watch this. On Adam Friedland's side to say, like, look at his emotional state. Look how he's pouring his heart out in this genuine way. And look at the cold, evil, villainous Ritchie Torres just sitting there, just like shrugging it off. It means nothing to him. It's not getting through. And I'll say a couple things about it. Like, first of all, it's completely unfair and almost unethical to judge it in that context, because you can watch, if you understand the show even a little bit, Richie's wondering if he's acting, if he's putting on, because he constantly goes between all that stuff. Do you know what I'm saying? So how could he possibly know what's happening right now when he starts choking up if he's doing shtick the whole time? Is that and I'm like, give me a break. It's like, we can talk about the merits of his emotional state if it's in fact a genuine emotional state, but what's happening with Richie isn't doubting the fact that this is a serious emotional subject. It's that is this person in front of me who's been half messing with me the whole time, every other line being shtick. Is he doing this for real? Because if it's for real, we can talk about it. But if it's not, I don't know what's happening here. And that to me is just, on its face, a real manipulation. And to present it in this way, to me seems like, and to put it out this way and edit it in this particular way, I think is a real manipulation, which I think is problematic to begin with.
And can we remember for a moment that, like, Ritchie Torres, as visible and as young and cool and hip as he is, he is a congressman who was invited onto a show, and then your host starts crying and whining at you. Like, how is he supposed to conduct himself? Like, I actually think he conducted himself like almost very statesman-like, of like, what you're doing is inappropriate, and I'm not going to match your energy just because you brought it there. I'm like a congressman and I'm your guest, and you can cry if you want, but I don't need to match that.
Right. But I think if it was a serious interview from the get-go and everything if it was I don't know, if he was sitting down with one of these like PBS sit-down reporters and someone just got choked up and emotional about it, I think you don't have to dismiss that. You could just say, okay.
But PBS reporters don't get choked up.
I know, but let's say he was talking to a Palestinian reporter and they got choked up.
It's not the same. It's not the same thing. If he was talking to a Palestinian, like a victim of the war or something, maybe, but like, that's not how reporters.
I get it, but this guy's not a reporter either. My point is, it's not the emotion that even bothers me. It's the fact that he's not sure if this guy's being real or not, which is how his show is structured. You don't know if I'm doing a character. You don't know if I'm trolling with you and messing with you. And to say, and to present it as Richie being cold and me being sincere, when in every other moment I'm joking around or doing shtick, it's just wrong.
And we've all been around trolls, and the second you become sincere, they flip it on you, and then now you become the butt of the joke.
And
so
he says, you're being a dick.
I get where he's coming from.
Oh, you're being a dick. And then he starts to like level off of it. So it's like, were you just getting choked? Then I want to just like take him at his word and say he is getting emotional, and then we can talk about that too.
Well, before we move on to the Adam Friedland part of it, what did you think of Richie's performance here?
So I have a couple of questions. We've interviewed Ritchie Torres, and Ritchie Torres is not at a loss for words. I think he knows what he believes, and he at certain times in the episode tried to demonstrate that. But then there are these times when they like leave long edits of still cameras on Richie, like looking around like this. And I have to wonder, and I could be wrong, but I suspect that it's possible that you could leave long still shots, single shots on somebody to make it appear as though they're not reactive or seemingly sitting there awkwardly. And certainly comedic trollist type shows do that. Editing can be very deceptive, even just leaving the camera on somebody a second too long, making them seem awkward and unfeeling. If they in fact did that, then that's and didn't disclose that that's how they do it and that's intentional, then that's really problematic. I think that's like almost a smear to like misrepresent someone through the editing. Like they do that all the time with these kind of shows. Pan to somebody's face. Maybe it's from an earlier part of the episode. Like it's confusing to me that Richie would just sit there during some serious claims by Adam about, genocide and saying these kind of things that it's confusing that I would have a hard time believing he would just be like this. And if he is just sitting there, he's wondering if this is real or not. Is Adam in character or doing this? That's what I think is going on if I'm analyzing it. The other problem is I hate this framing of it's so disingenuous to say, so I'm here against the genocide and you're here for it. Why?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, that is not a genuine good faith place to be. Clearly, Richie doesn't believe it's a genocide, and perhaps you do, although I would think you know better. You know, Adam having people in his life that he's close to, he said he's conflicted about what's going on. He knows, you know, he said he grew up a Zionist. He knows perhaps what's going on more in Israel and is a little more connected to it than the average person. I would think he wouldn't just take these buzzword catchphrases and recycle them. What I really take issue with fundamentally, and you can respond to this, is that he sits there and he goes, okay, don't feel bad for the Israelis who are attacked on October 7th. And don't feel bad for those who've been under rocket fire and hostages. And don't feel bad for the victims of the war necessarily. Feel bad. And don't feel bad for the college campus kids who've been experiencing anti-Semitism and all the Jews who've been experiencing anti-Semitism. Feel bad for me, who has to sit here and agree that the anti-Semitism is justified. Poor me and all those in my position who have to look at all this rising anti-Semitism and say, I get it. Now, that's the sickest part to me. Now, he won't come clean and admit it to that in that characterization, but that's exactly what's happening. And Richie tried to call him on that. You're saying it's justified? I'm not saying it's justified, but I'm here and people are doing this with a Jewish star. And now there's all this rising anti-Semitism. Feel bad for me for having to agree that it's on the rise for a reason I agree with. That is what I resent the most about this whole thing.
Yeah, I thought that he is. I had the same thought as you. He is a member of the most privileged Jewish generation in 2,000 years, possibly. So much so that you're able to deny the importance of a safe place for Jews to need to go and to be able to be against Zionism. That's a big privilege. So privileged that you can work in any profession you want. And he chose to go into entertainment, and he built he's worked very hard and built a big podcast platform. And then he uses it to invite a congressman onto a show and cry and whine about how a war where perhaps 60,000 people in Gaza have been killed and 450,000 Israelis have left their careers and families to risk their lives to fight this war has been for him. And then complain to Richie for why are we even having this conversation? Why are we having this debate?
Exactly.
Like as if he brought it up, like as if he asked to come on. It is such a microcosm of like, this has been so hard for me, and I wish it would just stop because it's so hard for me. So why can't you guys just stop, please?
And to add insult to injury, the other narcissistic manipulation that happens is, now I feel bad that you feel bad. Look what you made. Like, feel bad for me because I brought up a subject that made you upset, and now I feel bad. I didn't want it to go this way. Now I feel bad. So now I want not only sympathy for having to side with the anti-Semites because they now hate Jews for a good reason that I can't disagree with. And now I feel bad talking about this, so feel bad for me again. Look how you made me feel. Look how you made me feel. Exactly. It's so childish. It's very childish. Yes, and I think it sums up exactly this coalition, this view that in the face of rising anti-Semitism, you have this cohort that says, it's our fault. It's these other. It's Israel's fault. We're to blame for it, and in the face of sort of, I think, Jewish pride and people asserting Jewish strength and people fighting for Jewish lives, people who have Jewish shame really hate that. They really detest that, because if you're ashamed of it, then people standing for it on principle are antithetical to your values of wanting to blend in, wanting to be accepted by those who otherwise detest Jews. So there's this temptation to say, no, I ain't like that.
Right.
I don't agree with them. And that's the source of my virtue, is to stand against those. And so I'm not saying, people throw out terms like hatred, self-hating Jew, or you could certainly call it self-loathing Jew, and that the source of my shame, if the source of my shame is this people in this community, then the people who stand for it really insult me, because I'm all about shaming it and criticizing it and wanting to run away from it. And therefore, when the hatred comes up for it, like, give me a pass. I don't agree with it. Not in my name. Right. And it's this narcissistic view. Now,
there's nothing unique about me. I'm just like you.
Yeah.
Sure, I'm Jewish, but I'm not like uniquely Jewish.
Yeah.
I'm exactly like you. I don't like uniquely believe in one land or one God or whatever. Like, so anything that makes me, that you're saying is unique about us, like, no.
And when you see that in left of center reform, sort of like the less affiliated you go, the more reform, the more universalistic. Anything exclusively Jewish is offensive, whether it's a Jewish state, Jewish practice, Jewish ritual. And you see it here now manifest in the form of the way he's posturing. Now
I do want to say, because we're seeing a lot on him. And I'll get back to this later, because I have a larger point to make. But I don't have any problem with a Jew who feels this way. If you think it's a genocide, I think you're entitled to that opinion. A lot of people feel that way. Whatever, feel that way. The problem I have with it is that you're using this huge podcast to influence a lot of people, and you're making it harder for Israel to fight this war. You're making it harder for them to get the hostages back. And you're not, and you're lecturing as you're crying and whining, you're lecturing Israelis on how they ought to behave. And I mean, that's the part that I have a problem with. Not his opinion, but what he's doing with it on his platform and making it harder for Israel.
Well,
I just want to make that distinction.
Yeah. So, here's what I'll say to that. The thing is, in this space, I've seen a lot of the reactionary Zionist pro-Israel side. I'm part of that side, but not the reactionary side. I would hope to think that you and I both try to keep an even sort of measured view of things here.
I'm pretty reactionary.
You know what I mean. You're aware, but you're aware of it. A reactionary person is not aware of it. They just are reactionary. So when you look at the situation, I see people naming and shaming all the time, and I don't apply that tactic equally to everybody. For example, Theo Vaughn, or even, I don't know, Dave Matthews, people who've disappointed me with their positions, at the end of the day, if they genuinely believe that it's a genocide, that it's this, indiscriminate just massacre of civilians for fun, and they believe the horrible accounts, and I think a lot of the propaganda, as we've come to understand it, but if they genuinely believe that what Israel's doing is this genocide or the worst crimes against humanity you can imagine, if they genuinely believe that, they should feel that way, right? I mean, a good, decent person would say those things. We wouldn't want a world where people genuinely think it's a genocide and just don't care. Or you wouldn't want a world where people look at October 7th. People see October 7th, and it seems sensible that good, decent, normal people would react appropriately in disgust.
Well, I would also want them to speak out about the other genocides, but go on.
Okay, but I'm just saying that the pathology has spread to the point where people are bombarded with one conflict. There are the people who put that out there and have an agenda, and there are the people who receive it, and that's what happens. You just receive it, and you see these horrible things. Now, I would actually still argue that anything coming out of Gaza, as far as the tragedy and the optics of war, the horrible things you see, it's a horrible thing to have to do this, but if it pales in comparison to what you see in northern Syria against the Druze, or anything that you can see on October 7th, there is a difference. You do not see IDF soldiers doing to innocent Palestinians what Hamas terrorists did to innocent Israelis. I haven't seen that. I've seen a different thing, and I think people confuse the two because they see destruction and they see the horrors of war. They see the aftermath of an explosion, horrible things that happen, but morally, I would say there is a total difference, and you haven't seen that. But let's just, if we're being gracious here and giving the benefit of the doubt, if you genuinely think it's a genocide, then getting emotional or feeling hopeless, like how are we not speaking about this? Are we living in a world that lets this happen? Is comparable to the feeling that we have is, how do we live in a world where October 7th happens and people just aren't on our side? How do we live in a world where this can happen and people see this and don't see who the good guys are and the bad guys are? I think their side is wrong, but the pathology, the things that animate it are the same. We're just both so confused. It seems so obvious. To Dave Smith, they're just dropping bombs on babies. That's what they're doing.
Right.
I think he convinces himself that that's what's happening. Right. So the question is ultimately, Adam Friedland, I don't know if he genuinely believes that. I feel like he should know better. I feel like he should have people in his life with enough good people in his life that he has good relationships with that would give him pause than to parrot words like genocide that are charged and real libels and smears. I would think he would know better.
The story he tells is that he was brought to a village in the West Bank and he saw what was going on and he decided there and then this is the wrong side of history and I can't be on this side of history, which also you can almost forgive him for having that transformative experience. But then I learned he lived in Israel for a year. So like, I mean, I suppose like a lot of Israelis have come to the same conclusion.
What?
And that that what's going on is an occupation and awful and it needs to stop. And I suppose he's not calling for the end of the state of Israel. Like he's not going as far as like an anti-Zionist might. I don't know if he does. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. But it's confusing. It's confusing how he landed there.
So that part felt confusing and disappointing, and I'm not so sure. It's like, don't you have enough to at least know the other person? Don't you know enough to at least know that someone like a Ritchie Torres sitting across from you doesn't accept that characterization or that reality, that it's a genocide? You're aware that those of us defending Israel aren't defending genocide, the intentional targeting and killing of an entire people. We are disputing that it is a genocide, and we have a completely different defense for it that isn't the defense of a genocide. You know better than that.
He falls into this category of other people in my life who are much smarter than me, have more experience in Israel than me, are more well-read than me, and still I think have come to all the wrong conclusions. I can't say it's because like you don't know this or that or you're dumb or whatever. Like, maybe you've just overthought it. I don't know. Like, I wouldn't. I'm sure he's like he knows a lot about what's going on, and I just think just so plainly wrong, and has come.
And even and what really bothers me is like, as you're watching the conversation unfold, there's more clips we could probably watch, but I recommend everybody watch it. And everyone's like, watch this, and it just shows you the difference. I'm like, what it shows me is a total disingenuous manipulation, especially like. Richie Torres is bringing up October 7th and what's going on, and he responds with, he talks about the civilians that Hamas murdered. And this is what confused me. That Hamas murdered, as in cold blood, came and targeted and murdered. And he goes, how many civilians have been killed by Israel? How many civilians have been killed by Israel? Now, like, to someone who's just coming into this for the first time, I can see where somebody can get that confused. I would think he wouldn't get that confused. But Richie just stands there like this. It cuts back to Richie, like, I think as confused as I am right now, saying, are you for real? Not I'm cold-hearted, but are you for real? Now, I'm not sure if it's an old shot of Richie, like, you during a podcast, you can cut to the other guy listening like this. At any point, they have about 45 minutes of Richie just watching him talk. And it almost looks like when they cut it, that they cut to Richie from a different part of the episode going like this to make him look speechless. Yeah, that's I'm just making I'm presuming and I'm making maybe an accusation that they might have done that. But if not, he's sitting there going, you grew up Zionist, you lived in Israel, you understand the IDF a little more, you have friends on the other side of this debate, you have friends in your family, who are torn about this, people you love, and that's your response? Like, so are you for real? And I think that whole thing just felt like it didn't seem like he was trying to hear Richie's positions. It seemed like I have somebody in Congress here, and I'm going to showcase my pain, my torment, and my virtue, and I'm not actually going to hear why he thinks the way he thinks. Right. Like, that's what I don't like about it.
Right. And by the way, like...
And then I'm going to say, why did we talk about this? This passive-aggressive, like, I brought this all up, and I dragged this on. I didn't want to do that. That's the, like, sort of far left... Like, oh my God, please, we're friends, right? It's one thing if he was just being like the dishonesty of like, I didn't want to go there.
It drove me crazy. Yeah, I didn't want to go. I didn't want to have Ritchie Torres on my podcast and talk about Israel. And
Yeah.
like, and also he's like, I don't want to debate this. And like he was the only one debating it.
Yeah, and he's like, you're gaslighting me. No, you're gaslighting him. You're like, I don't want to debate. I don't want to debate.
Yeah.
And I'm going to interrupt every one of your responses.
Yeah.
So that's what it's not him taking one position versus Richie taking another position. It's the disingenuousness and the manipulation and the narcissism of the whole thing, and it's coded in that.
It was a really I think if you're Jewish and you've experienced October 7th from the diaspora, it was a really it really almost like can't be talked about enough or like studied enough, where like, I mean, I think he said like after October 7th, something in my like soul changed. And like, he really started to question things. And I would say the same exact thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like something in me changed and I started to question things.
In what sense did he change? What was he getting at?
I think he started questioning. Oh, what did I hear it? Let's see. I think I wrote it down.
Just to clarify, you're talking about Richie or you're talking about Adam?
I'm talking about Adam. I know Adam said that. Adam said that. I mean, I think like I think after October, maybe he didn't say that. Maybe those are my words. But anyway, I think like since October 7th, like Jews have received like a calling of where are you headed? Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of Jews have chosen like, no, I'm firmly grounded in what I believe and defending Israel and the Torah, really. Like it's not Zionism. I think it's really the Torah that like we believe this land belongs to us in some capacity.
Okay.
And then other Jews have just kind of gone the other way with it, of like, I also feel a calling and I'm going to respond in my own way, which is to reject Israel and to reject the Torah and to reject my community.
Pride or shame?
And it's
pride or shame.
Yeah. I would say it's almost, it's like, it's a survival instinct also to say like, how am I going to survive this? I'm going to survive this by connecting to my roots and to like the history of the Jewish people, or from disconnecting from my roots and trying that way. Jews have always tried that. And like, and it's really interesting to watch him, you know, like also like, you know, and have this shining star of his party who is amazing on everything except for Zionism, and have him on your show and drag him through the mud for this one opinion, you know, and you could say, well, yeah, but it's not one opinion, it's genocide. But there's a lot of stuff going on in the world that America is supporting and all that. So like, I don't buy that. Yeah. And just to see how he's publicly trying to survive this, I think is really fascinating to watch.
I also think the problem for Richie that was difficult was that, you know, he is on the Democratic side, which does acknowledge that while Richie's not like a woke identity politics guy, you know, I think there was a part of them that felt uncomfortable pushing back on somebody using the as a Jew card to say my identity and my experience gives me some authority here. That means you don't have the right to lecture me or push back. That would be disrespectful. That would be, quote, you know, from being sensitive and from a politically correct to different marginalized groups and religious identities. I'm going to speak now from my experience. And I think because Richie, in a sense, does play by those rules, you know, and respects those rules of political discourse, had to sort of sit down and either take it or wonder if this was real or not. If there was a conservative sitting across from her, a hardcore Republican pro-Israel guy, who would have been like, I don't care that you're as a Jewish, you're wrong. Like, they're just not as sensitive to those parameters. Whereas Richie is, for better or for worse. In this case, I think it was for worse, because it prevented him from, I think, you know, wanting to lecture to somebody who has a personal experience or an anecdote.
That to me, I think you're 100% right, and that to me is where I was really disappointed in him. Not so much. I'm not like mad at him, but like I was waiting for him to like go into that gear of like, I'm really, really smart and really, really good at having these conversations and very charismatic, and like I'm gonna give you now like, I'm not Jewish, and here's why I support Israel, not because I'm Jewish, but because of this, that, and the other. And like, and really like go into that gear. And he just, instead of doing that, he just fully backed away.
Yeah, because I think he didn't trust him at all. I think Adam's combination of shtick and oscillating between I'm in character effing with you, and now I'm lecturing you, and now I'm joking with you, and now I'm calling you a dick, you're an asshole, don't be a dick, that's mean, you're a dick, and then not, and then making a serious point and using these tactics to manipulate him basically means we're not having a real conversation. And at one point, Richie said, I don't want to talk about that. We're not, I'm okay. I've had all sorts of conversations. This is not a productive one because of the way you're behaving and the way you're conducting yourself. He said that to him flat out. He's like, I could push back on what you're saying, but I feel like I'm just taking the bait here on a manipulation. You know, it's like you have to figure out what's going on. And I think Jordan Peterson used to talk about this all the time with journalists. Figure out what they're up to. What's going on? And then decided to take them seriously, take them in good faith. And he said, I'm not taking this guy in good faith because now he's using his persona to manipulate me.
I wonder what this means also for the party getting like away from Israel into politics for a second. Like, I think Adam Friedland definitely represents this coalition we talk about sometimes, which is like, I'm sick of woke. Like sort of like where the woke right and the woke left meet in the middle, you know, like the sort of I would say Adam Friedland and Dave Smith like vibe the same to me, like the Jews from Mamdani vibe versus sort of Ritchie Torres, is an actual politician, actual candidate, should sort of be representing these people as like a young, charismatic person with all the same views except for this one thing now. And like how that all ships together. Like it's almost like our parents would be much more likely to vote for Richie Torres than the people Richie Torres' age, which is very odd. It's an odd place to be.
But what does the cohort want? I think they want like revolution or some kind of like, they're not trying to play by old establishment rules and policies, because I think, to be fair, they're representing a coalition, a cohort that's disillusioned with all of that. You Democrats are supposed to be the progressive ones, and you're not passing gun reform. You're not doing the things we want. We need a whole new system, which is why a Mamdani is so like appealing to people like that.
I'd love to see a Torres Mamdani debate and like see how that. Because I mean, Torres to me feels like a real person who can actually like be effective in this world, and Mamdani doesn't to me.
It's so interesting you say that, because the people who are on like Adam's side in this conversation look at him as a shill, as a caricatured politician. So what do you mean?
We're in this age where like things are so perfectly effed up that the truth and false are perfectly mirror each other. Where like, I can understand why someone thinks Torres is robotic and part of the establishment. And I can see that, but I've come to such a different conclusion about him and Mamdani, and I can also see why they think Mamdani is cool and real. I don't get how they don't see what I see, and they don't get how I don't see what they see.
Right. I mean, I made a video about this like this past week about like groupthink, and coming off the episode we had with Lucy, we were talking about it. I
saw that. It was good. I watched it.
No, it's just like you guys all think us Zionists are in this detached box echo chamber. And, whenever you characterize people that way, that's what that's what the anti-Trump, never Trump people said about all the Trump people. You guys are all crazy. The rest of the sensible world is against Trump. He's evil. He's a Nazi. You're all evil. And then it all just comes in waves. And the same people who are pro-lockdowns, COVID's going to kill everybody, you're all irresponsible. I was thinking about this recently also when it came to like, dude, like look at what Dave Smith says about Israel, right? Like all the, and I watched another debate with like Misfit Patriot and this other horrible like Hamas supporter on like Tim Pool. They're like, who's the one appealing to all the authorities now, right? It's like all the international institutions, the ICC, the criminal courts, excuse me. They're all condemning Israel. Everyone's against Israel. Public opinion has turned against you. And it's like, wait a minute. These are all the same institutions you don't trust when it's a cause that you care about that goes against that cause. During COVID, all the public health institutions said we had to do what Fauci said, but excuse me. A couple years later, we come to find out they were all corrupted and they're all not to be trusted. So now, in your case, they're to be trusted? I mean, come on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a weird place to be so countercultural for me.
That you feel countercultural?
Anytime you hear anyone in entertainment talk about Mamdani, they always qualify everything they say. Well, like I like Mamdani. I like Mamdani. I'm for him. But everyone it is so not cool to not be for Mamdani right now. Like we are not on the popular side right now.
Right. But what does that tell you? It's like the fringe side where we are now. It's like the more you push Israel to the fringe, or the more you push the pro-Israel side to the fringe or whatever, you kind of almost follow the same pattern, which is that in a few years, once this is all blown over, everyone's going to be like, oh my God, did we actually make excuses for Hamas? Did we actually not all agree that they were the reason this was going on the whole time? Did we actually not realize that the Western countries like America and Israel were the better countries? How did we not see that? Just like, how did we not see that? Did we actually lock everybody down for 2 years and close schools and not let children and try to force kids to get vaccinated? Are we crazy? Did we actually all buy into that? And I actually think the same thing's going to happen here. Did we actually listen to Tucker and Candace's conspiracies about, did we actually think Hitler might have been not the chief villain?
Yeah,
like all those things.
It's part of a groupthink. In the city that 9/11 happened, where there was a controversy that a mosque might be built near Ground Zero. Did like 25 years later, we elect like a guy who's like not so anti-jihad.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like,
I'm not jihadist, obviously, but
so where is the groupthink? And I'm just saying, guys, the more you try to say that we're more isolated, we may be the ones actually thinking much more clearly here. And you guys might increasingly be giving in to a mob mentality. Just ask yourself where the mob mentality is. Is it around Mamdani or is it around his detractors? I think it's obvious. So,
well, join us on Patreon if you like this conversation. Check us out. We love the support.
We did watch a few other episodes in preparation for this episode of Adam, and they were pretty funny. I will say, he does make me laugh when
he's really funny. I like him. Yeah. I really do like him. It's all this is very confusing. I would be a fan of his. Yes, I am a fan of his. Otherwise, I like what he's doing. I like his vibe.
And I always will defend humor and comedy and that approach to things. But when you use it not for a laugh, not for levity, and not in an obvious satirical fashion where it's clear what the motive and agenda is of it, then it can be very unethical and very manipulative, very narcissistic. And especially when you're working with a guest who's invited onto your show and you're using it to confuse them, where it's not like, clear from the get-go, like, we're going to troll you this whole time. Nothing coming out of his mouth is going to be serious, so just roll with it. And then you compromise them and then after say that they should feel bad for you, for your manipulations of them. I mean, that just sums up a certain type of person that I think has been kind of problematic. And it took the form of Adam Friedland this week, so, I think Richie liked being on our show better. That's what I'll say.
He used to be engaged to Dasha from Red Scare.
Who's that?
One of them. The one that was in Succession. Do you know them? The young, I think she's younger. The blonde one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not Richie.
Sounds pretty cool. No, not Richie.
I was like, oh, so he's really done a 180 then, huh? But anyway, maybe we'll have Richie back on to properly post game about this, about what went on behind the scenes.
We'll put him in a nice bright shirt.
And then they released that behind the scenes after he got it from his chair. It's like, I didn't want to talk about this. I didn't want it to go this way. Which in the end, everyone's like, this reflects so poorly on Congressman Richie Torres. I'm like, no, it doesn't. It actually reflects poorly, in my opinion, and your opinion, on Adam Friedland.
And we'll end on this, but I mean, we're so behind in the cool race that no one thinks that, which is unfortunate.
That's okay.
I think you're right, but
and that's okay, because the truth isn't always what everybody thinks. I think that's the theme here. What's true is not what most people think by definition. It's just what is. So,
all right. Thanks for joining, Ami. Thank you so much.
Follow us on Patreon, guys. Join us and subscribe. I appreciate it. We appreciate it.
Happy Labor Day.
Yes. Happy Labor Day and exciting announcements to come. Stay tuned.
Yes.
Thanks for watching.